You know, I'm starting to think whoever is writing the Ninjala anime behind the scenes absolutely knows what they're doing when it comes to writing for an animated script. The writing in this episode is absolutely incredible. It calls on a couple old school tropes that you would see in movies as well as other animated shows, and it does a really good job of executing those in what would be considered to be known as in Hollywood as a red herring. So I really want to talk about this episode because there's some really good stuff in this episode as well as a pretty bombshell of an ending that we definitely need to discuss a little bit. So hello ladies and gentlemen and all the core gamers out there, CAJ Man 777 here, and welcome back to another Ninjala anime episode discussion today. We're going to be talking about episode 19, the Orange Sea Terror. So before we get any further into it and everything that this anime episode had to offer, do me a favor guys, if you guys are enjoying the content here on the channel, do me a favor and hit that like button as well as hitting that subscribe button here. We're hoping to reach 5,000 subs by the end of the year. I hope you guys can help make that possible. And the other goal I've been setting as of just recently is we got my convention, Too Many Games, next month. So if we could hit 3,000 before I reach Too Many Games, that would be great. That's about, I think 400 subs we need about for that. So, if I get hit 3,000 before TMG, I think that would be huge. But, that's the intro. And what I want to talk about, you know, warming up out of the way. Now we're ready. We're going to settle into the Ninjala mood. I'm going to take another sip of my tea because I'm still out of coffee. And let's get started with this episode breakdown. So, our episode opens up on a very rainy night with a fisherman sitting on a beach. Or I guess not on a beach, but more so on a cliff. And it is absolutely pouring rain. He has a glow-in-the-dark fishing lure, obviously, so he can help, you know, catch fish and see his lure go down at the end of the night. But, unfortunately, it's pouring so bad that it's really bad weather conditions that you probably don't want to be out on the seacoast anyway. Like, honestly, lightning is bound to strike, and luckily it doesn't in this scene. But what does strike is a couple strange lights that freaks out this unfortunate old man who happens to be fishing. All right! Yo, man, they've been hitting new Ninjala OST like crazy. And the WNA has been sent to investigate these strange lights that are happening down in the Orange Sea. They think it's closely associated to the Space Ninja. So, of course, our 8 main cast are riding the magic school bus under the guise of a field trip to, you know, come on down and see what they can do about the Space Ninja and see if they can analyze or pick out exactly what happened in this entire, you know, instance. Why are the Space Ninja here? How long have they been here? And can we draw them out of hiding? That is the WNA's goal. Yo, all aboard the magic WNA bus. Let's go. WNA 本部はこれらの目撃例をスペース忍者と見て調査を命じてきた。我々は社会科のフィールドワークの名目で現地に潜入、調査を行う。
例によっておとりってこと？
危険な任務は討伐隊の担当だ。
テンション上がんないよね。
Yeah, I agree with Lucy.
教師生活5、6年、諸君を危険にさらすまいとする親心がわからんとはな。
He's finally broken.
はいはい。ところであの人誰
？Now, as they are riding on this trip, you might notice that Amy is not with Bruce in this scene. And it is revealed that Amy is currently away on vacation. So, in their place, we have a new instructor known as Miss Daisy. And, getting some very edgy vibes from this character as well. Almost, too edgy.
Oh, 紹介が遅れて I'm sorry, ヒゲソーリー。エイミー先生がバカンス中なんで代わりに来てくれたデイジー先生だ。
よろしく。
Oh boy. glad that the animation team and the design team for this character, Miss Daisy, they did a really good job with designing this character, because Miss Daisy, as we'll get to later, might be working with the Oni Wambashu, and you can kind of tell based on the design that she might kind of be a dead giveaway for working with the Oni Wambashu and Alan's assassins, but there's some really good reasons. I like the way they designed her, the way they did, or whoever the design team is behind them did. Because it plays this, like, if you're watching this for the first time, and you haven't seen this, or you're not in, like, context, if you're not paying attention to every little thing, there's a reason why I like Ms. Daisy's design so much. And we'll talk to you about that in a second. But basically, they've been tasked to gather information about what happened to the Space Ninja. So obviously that's what we do. We get a bunch of little scenes where all of our main 8 cast, they're asking around, and they ask about the Space Ninja and what happened with them. Well, not specifically the Space Ninja, but they're trying to gather information because they don't want to reveal that they're looking for some random space organism.
7日も連続雨なんて信じられる？もうジメジメしちゃって最悪なのよ。それで浜辺から見上げたら
This is cool. For now, I want to see how the episode progresses. Obviously, this is just a build up.
怖くて怖くて。
近い近い。
じいさんが人玉見て腰抜かした話か。人玉が人を襲うって言い伝えがあるけどな。
That's a tough shot to do. That's a 3/4 down shot. I'm actually really impressed with the drawing there. The most important conversation that is held between the main 8 casts, and the most important bit of information that you actually need to retain, and I did not retain it at first in this episode until I realized something a little bit later, and you'll see my reaction to it when I realized it a little bit later. The smile that crosses my face is interesting, but it's when Burton and Berecca are talking to this older lady on a bench, and she says she needed to bring out her umbrella because recently the town by the Orange Sea here got 7 days straight worth of rain. So 7 days worth of rain and 2 days of not having rain to dry everything up. 7 days worth of rain doesn't sound like it's an important detail, but let me tell you, it's a very important detail for what ends up happening later in the episode. And you wouldn't really realize that at first because they play off this episode as a very cheerful kind of like a vacation for all the main 8 cast. Cut to Alan and the Oni Wambashu. So cool. Oh boy.
手はすでに打ってございます。ルークの動きが気になる。不安なファクターは早めに消しておきたい。こたびは月影が網を張っております。そうか。
I was gonna say, it's probably Daisy again, right? The Tsukikage. The next thing Alan says, though, intrigues me. He goes, Luke seems to be up to something. I want all loose ends tied up. Now, whether he's referring to the thing that the WNA is doing right now with the main 8 cast or something else is not entirely clear, but all we know is that they sent a member off after Burton and Berecca known as the Tsukikage. So this could be the same thing that is linked to Luke seems to be up to something, so I want all loose ends tied up. And that's why they send the Tsukikage, which is basically their highest ranking ninja official. And Alan is very pleased with the Tsukikage being sent. Because, as you'll see later, actually as you'll see right in the next cut, we cut to, of course, Ms. Daisy. Immediately, my brain is ticking in my reaction to the episode because this is what is commonly known in the film industry, in the animation industry, as a red herring. Now, if you don't know what a red herring is a piece of information or a shot of information or a person or an object that plays off a scene previously that might give away the identity of something to happen in the future. However, a red herring is the fake version of that. It is the exact fake version of that. It is not a device for... I guess you can't say it's not a device for the plot, but it's not a device to keep in mind. A red herring is not a device to keep in mind. A red herring is a ploy to get the mindset of the person watching the show or watching the movie thinking in another direction compared to when they have to think in the other direction. A really good scene that comes to mind is the one scene in Mission Impossible. And I don't remember which Mission Impossible movie it is, but the red herring is that they capture the guy and then they put Benji in the mask of the guy. And the red herring is that the main antagonist who gets revealed in this scene is fooled by the red herring that's Benji in the captured dude's mask that they captured in the earlier scene. So, I don't remember which Mission Impossible movie it was, but that's a good example of a red herring that has a relatively quick payoff. This red herring in this episode, which the red herring in itself in this episode is Miss Daisy, this red herring does not pay off till very much later in the episode. And that is really good storytelling because you've got me thinking throughout this entire episode one way, is Miss Daisy or is Miss Daisy the Tsukikage that the only one Banshee sent? But the other part of my brain is saying no because that would be too easy. But that's also my film and animation knowledge, understanding that, hey, there's no way you'd cut to the main bad guy and then show the actual main bad guy right after. That's definitely a red herring. And I'm glad to see that it's actually true, but the payoff that we get for this red herring later is absolutely incredible. And of course, Burton and Berecca are relatively suspicious of Miss Daisy. They think, obviously, Berecca asks Burton, do you think that Miss Daisy is an assassin from the only one Banshee? And Burton goes, not sure, but we should stay as far away from her as possible, and runs away.
本当にいるのかな、スペース忍者。何かの間違いだったら私たちバカみたいじゃない？何見てるの？
デイジー先生だよ。クリス先生のこともあるし、もしかすると
アレンからの資格。確かに怪しい。
It's gonna watch it be a red herring and it's actually gonna be a ploy. Watch it be a red herring. So we get our next scene. As Burton and Berecca flee from Miss Daisy, suddenly they notice a girl kind of walking toward the edge of the cliff. And as we get a close-up of this girl, obviously you can tell she does not have any ninja descendancy in her. But unfortunately, she is willing to throw herself off the cliff. Burton comes in and does end up saving her.
この辺じゃないか。2日前、おじいさんが襲われたの。あ、誰かいる。
Don't tell me we have ghosts, like actual ghosts in Ninjala now.
危ない。
よかった間に合って。
命は大切にしなくちゃだよ。
ちょっとめまいがしただけ。
僕はバートン。
私ベレッカ。社会科のフィールドワークで来てるの。私イライザ。
Unless that's a Tsukikage.
気をつけた方がいいわよ。ここで危ない目に遭った人もいるんだから。じっちゃんのことね。
We learned that this girl's name is Eliza, and her grandfather is the one who was attacked a couple nights ago, and apparently he's still in, pretty bad condition from what we understand. However, the reason Eliza kind of wanted to throw herself off the cliff is because of the story she ends up telling, what is the Orange Sea Terror, the story of the town. But Eliza obviously does give a little bit of a story that her parents were lost at sea, and the grandpa, who was attacked by the space ninja a few days ago, raised her all alone. And this is kind of a sad moment because it's a realization, again, for Burton and Berecca, that the Ninja Gum has really caused what they've, the Ninja Gums kind of really caused all their troubles. With this, their development of the Ninja Gum is what drew the Space Ninja back to the planet to begin with, and then their continued use of it has continued to put normal people that aren't ninja descendants in danger. And they start to feel really bad for it. So we're starting to see some of the repercussions of the Ninja Gum development, as well as the backstabbing behind the scenes with the Oniwan Banshu. And it's kind of heartbreaking when you really think about it, because the Ninja Gum was meant to be developed to obviously awaken the shinobi powers, but it was meant to more better the world. And it's now, while it has bettered the world specifically for ninja descendants, it has put the world in a bit of a tougher scenario with other characters and even just normal people trying to live their lives with the space ninja and stuff.
父と母を海の事故で亡くして、私じっちゃんに育てられたの。それがあんなことになって。
The voice actor doing Eliza's like sounds really old, like older than they should to portray the character they are.
海幽霊に魂を持っていかれたって。海幽霊？村に伝わる伝説。月の明るい夜には海幽霊が人の魂を奪いに来る。
非科学的だな。第一、霊肉二元論は最新の脳科学で。
海幽霊に祈れば自分の魂と引き換えに奪われた魂を返してくれる。
So it's a really, honestly, I really like this scene. But what I like about this scene is that we get this story from Eliza about the quote-unquote sea terror of the Orange Sea. And the story basically goes that any soul that was taken by the sea, you can give it back on a night with a clear moon. If you just sacrifice yourself, it will return one. Now, Burton obviously doesn't believe this at all. He's very, you know... especially considering... obviously, Burton likes to take things as at a scientific method. So he goes, oh, your mind and body wouldn't necessarily agree to just throwing yourself off a cliff like that. It sounds pretty unscientific. And it's especially because we're tracking the space ninja. And Berecca starts trying to tell Burton, hey, you're letting too much on. And it's kind of nice, because we haven't seen any, like, solid reactions with Burton and Berecca in a while. And it's very nice to finally see Burton and Berecca kind of working together again. The scene ends with Eliza walking back home. Which, by the way, she just straight up vanishes. So I thought initially maybe, oh, she might be a ghost, which technically isn't wrong, but at the same time it is also wrong. But she leaves her necklace on the ground. Come a little later, and Burton and Berecca a little bit later in that day, and they run into a boy at the top of the hill. And this boy at the top of the hill, which, by the way, from the back shot looks like it's Burton, but it's the way the lighting's shot intentionally. They made his hair yellow instead of gray, which is what it actually is. This boy seems to be painting something at the top of the hill, and Burton and Berecca are kind of curious about this, and they walk up. Ooh.
この家のはずだけどな。
グレゴリー？グレッグって呼んで。
And he reveals that his name is Greg, and he is a very incredible artist who has apparently been there for a week to recuperate mind and body. And we do get a good look at these paintings. An incredibly talented artist who, again, has been there for a week. And you do get a couple shots at Burton and Berecca's drawings, and you might think, oh man, maybe he drew all these pictures within a few days. And you notice all the pictures and everything he's drawn. He's done a boat, he's done the house, and it all looks rather, you know, nonchalant, rather normal, rather interesting. However, he does have one particular night shot on a clear moon that has these glowing orbs, which obviously are the space ninja over the water. And Burton and Berecca have to ask, okay, where exactly did you find these, and when were they there? Talents. Someone obviously had to paint those for the actual anime.
これは？あそこに浮かんでいたんだ。気球か何かかなと思ってたんだけど。
スペース忍者の目撃証言と一致する。
スペース忍者？ああ、いや、なんでもない。気をつけなさいよ。あれ？あそこに女の人が。誰もいないわよ。さっきも見たんだ。 白いドレスを着て今にも落っこちそうで危ないなって気になってたんだけど。
So there's ghosts in Ninjala
そ
now.
んなこと考えてなきゃいいけど。
行ってみる。
何かあったの？ちょっとね。それより空に浮いてたものの話詳しく聞かせて。確かあっちの方から現れて。
But they get information on where the space ninjas might be, which is why they were there in the first place, which I really like. Berecca asks, okay, where did you see these space ninjas show up? So Greg points to the exact spot where he saw these strange lights. And as Berecca turns around, suddenly a boomerang gets thrown from Berecca, kind of behind her, but not quite behind her. Not necessarily in the direction of Greg, but most definitely in the direction of from where Greg was. Enter Emma and Lucy, who quickly kick this boomerang out of the way and, you know, save Berecca from what might have been a terrible fate. However, we do see that Greg runs away, and Berecca buys this. And at this point, I'm looking at this, and I'm going, and I'm just very quietly contemplating in my reaction why the heck Greg would run away from something like that. Wait for it, wait for it.
エマ、ルーシー。危ないとこだったね。スペース忍者？一人で逃げちゃってごめん。それで正解。無事でよかったよ。誰もいない。逃げられたね。そろそろ戻る時間よ。
Cut to our 8-man cast now, regrouping at the end of the night, and they obviously all gathered some bits and pieces of information and intel and multiple strange reports of the past week, but unfortunately they don't have any solid, concrete evidence of the Space Ninja, so they're gonna go back at it again tomorrow, so at least they get to have a little bit of a relaxing night. Sitting by the campfire, though, in this same scene are Jane, Burton, and Berecca, and they're starting to talk about the WNA and Burton feeling like the suffering of the WNA is... Or, I'm sorry, did I say Jane, Burton, and Berecca? Jane, Burton, and Ron in this scene. But Burton, again, he's feeling bad about the effects of the WNA, and Ron is going, well, give me a break. There's no way... it's not your fault, basically, what Ron is saying that the Space Ninja might have been here. Because he's in... Ron, based on the information they gathered earlier in the day, Ron is implying that the Space Ninjas were there a longer time than they might have already known. They might have been here way before.
どこに行ったんだろう。
大丈夫でしょ。地元の子なんだし。
イライザはある意味、僕たち WNA の被害者だからね。責任感じるよ。
They look like chibis in this shot. Actually, it's kind of cute.
伝わる伝説が本当だとすれば、スペース忍者は古くからいた可能性がある。俺たちが知らないだけでな。
お疲れ、ベレッカ。
グレッグは？
家まで送るって言ったんだけど。
And I love the fact that we get the characters that are actually adults talking about the bigger picture, about the, you know, the Space Ninja and the effects of the WNA, and the fact that they all know. Again, we never saw what happened in the scene so long ago, but when Ron saved Burton, and Ron saved Burton and Berecca, and he saved, like, them countless times, but we never saw the conversation. You can only imply that they all know everything about each other, but Ron is still stubborn and doesn't want to help them or draw them, draw them to figure out their own problem. But eventually, it is going to come to that moment. Enter Berecca back in the scene, and Burton asks, did you get Greg home all right? And Berecca goes, yeah, I got him home all right. And Greg, and then we get a small little scene where Greg thanks Berecca for, saving him and everybody else who saved him. And Greg's like, oh, to know I had a friend, that was a really awesome thing. And I've been sugarcoating it for too long. This is a ploy. This is a ploy because remember how I said the red herring is Miss Daisy? Well, the actual true identity behind the not red herring is Greg. And it's not just Greg. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit of a second here. But Eliza shows up at the camp as well. And Burton does return the necklace.
そうなんだよ。
Whatever got thrown at her, obviously.
忍者は任務がすべて。市場は捨てること。それと
それと
考えていることが全部顔に出てる。少しは疑うことを覚えるべき。
はあ？
十分疑ってるつもりですけど。イライザ、来てくれたんだ。
助けてもらったのにちゃんとお礼が言えなかったから。どこへ行ってたの？あなたの家誰もいなかったから。ごめんなさい。ベレッカに言われて。
She's literally a ghost.
のことが気になって。
You can't tell me that she's not.
忘れ物。
ありがとう。探してたの。
その海幽霊なんて迷信本気で信じてないよね。
迷信ならいいんだけど。もうこんな時間。行かなくちゃ。
僕が送るよ。
大丈夫。通い慣れた道だし、月も明るい夜だし。
And Eliza is talking to Burton. She says, I'm going to visit my grandfather at the hospital, like she said, because she said earlier to them that her grandfather was unconscious. And as Burton returns the necklace, Eliza vanishes out to another place. Then we get, obviously, Greg to leave the scene as well, and he kind of comes up to Berecca. Cut over to Miss Daisy in this very interesting shot as Berecca, as Greg tells Berecca, you're headed home tomorrow. Very strange, suddenly. Greg kind of comes running over the hill after Eliza leaves the hill. Again, notice how they're never in the same scene at the same time.
海幽霊か。
ベレッカ、バート。
グレッグ。明日帰っちゃうの？
だいぶ体調も良くなったから帰っていいってお医者さんが。
よかったじゃん。
でもせっかく友達になれたのに。
また会えるよ。
そうそう。
It's too
あ
calm,
りがとう。僕もう行くね。
right?
長い
Like it
する
feels
と辛くなり
it
そうだし
feels too calm, which is not necessarily a bad thing if it actually is.
友達か
The thing is a
あの子
red herring,
きっといい画家になると思う。
but I don't think it
デッ
is.
サンでもいいから1枚もらっとけばよかったのに。めっちゃ高値がついたりして。
芸術の価値は値段じゃないわ。
But if you really think about it in reality, you would think they would arrive relatively at the same time. But the fact that they're not present in the same scene at the same time does, you know, throw me off a little bit. Either way, as Greg leaves and says, thanks, Berecca, for everything, Berecca finds a note in her pocket that basically says, come down to the beach alone and in private at 8 o'clock. I want to draw a portrait of you. And obviously this is where my brain is ticking and I'm going, no, this is not right at all. So Berecca kind of shrugs off. Burton asks, you know, what's going on? She's on Berecca, and Berecca kind of shrugs that off. And Berecca heads down to the beach.
助けてくれたお礼に海と月を背景にベレッカの肖像を描かせてほしい。迷惑じゃなかったら8時にここに来て。絶対に綺麗に描く。でも恥ずかしいから一人で来てね。どうしよう。
There it is.
何？
なんでもない。未来の巨匠のモデルってのも悪くないかも。
Later, a couple minutes later, or I would say a couple hours later, perhaps, Burton's playing some cards with, you know, Van and Cappe and Lucy and Jane and Emma. Lucy's kind of just off doing her own thing. She's kind of rocking out to some music. They're playing a little poker game, but then all of a sudden it hits Burton. Burton goes, wait a minute, Eliza told us the same story earlier. On days where the moon shines bright, if you sacrifice yourself to bring back the soul of another. And Burton's starting to kind of believe the superstition a bit, but he's also kind of concerned for Eliza's safety, because what if Eliza actually does believe this? So Burton goes off to the cliffside to see where Eliza is. And as Burton runs off, you get this menacing shot of Miss Daisy, just this evil smile, and I kind of like it. Because again, she's been a red herring the entire episode, and she is the red herring. She's not the problem. It's gonna be what happens in this next scene.
通い慣れた道だし、月も明るい夜だし。月の明るい夜には海幽霊が自分の魂と引き換えに奪われた魂を返してくれる。
イライザ。
No, come on, don't do that. Make that a red herring. Make Greg. I got a feeling. Suddenly, we have Berecca kind of getting to the beach where Greg is, and Greg isn't there yet. Berecca sees the notepad, though, in art, and as she flips through it, she notices something really strange. Obviously, the first picture you see is the picture that Greg drew. Or not quite the same picture that Greg drew earlier. But Berecca's flipping through the books, and you start to notice something in the pictures. And it's at this point when it hit me that, wait a minute, it was raining the last 7 days. How the heck can pictures be sunny? Now, granted, I assume that Greg at the time did them in 2 days, but in the back of my mind, that's a thought that I had going. That thought was in the back of my mind. Why are those pictures sunny? And Berecca later confirms that scene earlier. Now, of course, as Burton walks up to Eliza at the cliff, around the exact same time, a boomerang gets thrown at Burton. And as this boomerang gets thrown at Burton, Burton swiftly dodges it, pulls out the Ippon Katana, and counters the boomerang on its way back. Miss Daisy comes into the scene and says, "Behind you," and you're thinking, what's going on here? As another boomerang is thrown from Eliza's hands, and my goodness, this shot is incredibly intimidating. Can I just say that right now? This shot is so well done with the Eliza and the faded out eyes that you normally see in anime, where it's just a shadow under the hair and you don't see anything about the eyes. Just standing there menacingly with the boomerangs. Oh, wait a minute. No way she is. Of course she is. Daisy is the red herring. The Burton's wondering why the heck this is, why it's so confusing. And Daisy goes, that old man that was attacked, this is not his granddaughter. He has no grandchildren. He's quite well. Cut to something we didn't see with Miss Daisy previously, but that old man is drinking in a bar literally 2 days later. We never saw that with Miss Daisy, so now suddenly the red herring has revealed itself that Eliza is the problem, and so is Greg, because Greg is not present where Berecca currently is, and there's a reason for this, and it's because they are the same person. Eliza and Greg are the same person, and my goodness, the shot we get from this is intimidating. There's both boomerangs, which, by the way, give me that weapon in Ninjala, please. It's badass. Imagine having like dual ranged boomerangs, kind of like the yo-yo, but like we have gum boomerang as a gum shot, but give me like the actual dual boomerangs. That'd be kind of sick. Either way, Eliza throws the two boomerangs, Burton counters him, and Eliza's gone. The next thing that Daisy says to Burton straight up, there's more unfortunate news. There was never a boy that was here recuperating, as also Daisy went to the hospital to find out there was never a boy here recuperating for the week, as Daisy and Burton find a kunai with a rope attached into the cliff. Obviously there was going to be a red herring, but... So there's no sick child undergoing treatment. Cut back to, of course, Berecca and Greg. Suddenly shows up there. But before that, the Space Ninja actually end up showing up and ambush the rest of the main 8 cast who are, kind of chilling at the camp. And Emma says, there's no way to call the extermination squad. We need to deal with them. So now, obviously, everything's coming into place. The Space Ninja are present. They were just hiding themselves and making themselves known. And obviously, the rest of them will end up dealing with the Space Ninja. No problem there. So we're not going to focus on the Space Ninja scene. They deal with them fine. Really cool thing where Ron literally... I'm just going to quickly show the scene. But at the end of the scene, Ron literally just smacks the leader of the Space Ninja and they destroy the Space Ninja. And it's like that. It's one of the pink Space Ninja, the pink Space Ninja in the tracksuits. And we get the comical, like, eyes popping out of the head as Ron hits them with the hammer in the back. Leon being the sneaky ninja he is. What is the most important scene to talk about here is Berecca, as she is looking at the notepad. A boomerang also now gets thrown at Berecca. And Berecca was ready for this as she immediately has the Ippon Katana out and counters it. And now here's Greg suddenly standing there. And Greg immediately goes, "Figured me out, did you?" And Berecca goes, "I'm here to turn you down."
気づいていたんだね。
Yup!
モデルはお断りするわ。あなたの絵、嘘だらけなんだもん。1週間前に来たって言ってたよね。どの絵の風景も全部晴れ。この1週間、ずーっと雨だったのに。
And that's awesome, because you didn't think they would call back to the fact that it's been raining for a week, and it didn't hit my mind until, like, Berecca initially picked up the pad and it was sitting in the back of my mind, but hearing Berecca confirmed it made me so happy. But to think they called back to such a little detail in the story that they were talking about was so interesting. I thought this episode was mainly more going to focus around the Space Ninja, but it's not. It is mainly about Bert and Berecca, the Tsukikage, and the assassin. And as we get the hand waving over Greg's face, Greg suddenly turns into Eliza, and that's what it hit me.
Eliza?
That's freaking crazy. And they don't have the pink glint in their eye though either.
あなた誰なの？
That's Chris.
そう呼ばれる鬼アバンシュがいると聞いたことがある。イライザとグレッグが同じ人間だったとはね。
参ったな。バレちゃったか。
クリス先生。
なぜ二人を狙う？
Yo, the boomerangs are kind of sick. Not gonna lie, like, we have gum boomerang, but that's kind of sick. Also baiting shark, that's awesome. Yo! That this might be Chris. That this might be Chris, and it is confirmed that this, the Tsukikage, is Chris, the instructor, fake instructor that was pulled to try and take them out the last time, is now suddenly playing as Greg and Eliza. What's shocking to me, though, is that somehow Chris can pull this disguise by somehow shrinking his height and disguising the fact that he is also a ninja by not having the glint in his eye. Man, that's overpowered if you ask me. But we get the good reveal that, of course, this is indeed, you know, Chris, and Bert and Berecca finally get a decent team-up scene. And granted, it's very short, but it's a really well done and animated scene. That's it. That's all we get of Chris. It's a really cool scene, and obviously seeing that Chris's powers can go beyond just disguising himself as an adult is awesome. And I love the red herring of Miss Daisy being used the entire episode, saying, oh, are they gonna go after Burton and Berecca? Or at some point, when in reality it was going to be Eliza and Greg, aka Chris, aka the Tsukikage, that was really the threat, as Miss Daisy was a red herring the entire episode. Really good storytelling and a nice callback to like certain bits and pieces of the episode, because watching it for the first time, you don't really get that. It's on a rewatch or talking about it like I'm doing now that you really start to understand how well this episode was written. For that reason. But the episode ends on kind of a bombshell here, because after that scene, after the Space Ninja get taken out, suddenly, as Miss Daisy, Burton, and Berecca are walking back, Leonard stumbles out into the town from the Orange Sea and collapses. Burton and Berecca run over to check him. Berecca asks if Leonard is okay, and Leonard's only response is Berecca. We cut to a close-up of Leonard, and the episode ends, and I'm thinking, what the heck is happening here? Leonard?
大丈夫？
ベレッカ。
レナードさん。
Huh? Huh? What the actual heck is going on? Because I thought Leonard worked for the Shadow Ninja. He works for the or he has an alliance with the Shadow Ninja and the Space Ninja and controls them based on what we know in Story Mode Chapter 2. And I still think that can happen. I think Leonard might be there to gather information, but to see Leonard come out in front of Burton and Berecca like that and collapse and have the next episode preview, by the way, focus on Burton, Berecca, and Leonard? Like, what the heck? I thought Leonard was a force for evil, or at least trying to hide something, because if he's the one behind the Shadow Ninja and the Space Ninja attack in Story Mode Chapter 2, why is he suddenly out here collapsed in front of Burton and Berecca when he wanted himself necessarily stay hidden? And I think that kind of plays into the fact that he was running from maybe a couple Shadow Ninja in the last episode, maybe some Shadow Ninja have gone rogue. But I don't know, it's a pretty big bombshell to end the episode on, and I'm interested to see what they do with this detail in the next episode, because I still think somehow Leonard is going to end up in the alliance with the Shadow Ninja and the Space Ninja if he already isn't the leader of them. Or if the game's lore is a little different compared to what we're going to get in the anime here. Interested to find out everything that they have to do with that. But I kind of really like this episode. Obviously, I've been talking a lot longer than I've wanted to talk on this episode, but no, I thought it was good. I really think the storytelling here was what pushed this episode into, like, the good territory for me, because introducing a red herring to the story and revealing the red herring so early and then not having it pay off until the very end of the episode, very good. Like, that's something, it's not like a movie where the red herring pays off a couple scenes later. Granted, in an animated episode format, it does seem like a couple minutes later, but when your animated episode's only 30 minutes, having that red herring revealed to not be, actually be a red herring and not, be the actual threat is awesome, especially in an animated format like that. And you don't see, there's a couple shows that do the payoff of the red herrings really well, that come to my mind. AOT, Attack on Titan, does have a couple red herrings, but most of the information in Attack on Titan is like, you have to think about it going forward into the story in the context of the previous seasons kind of thing. With Ninjala, we get this nice red herring payoff that's in that episode, centered in that episode, and I absolutely love it. So let me know, of course, I want to know what you guys thought of this episode down in the comments section below. Let me know what your favorite part of this episode was. I have been talking way too long on this episode, a little bit longer than I wanted to be fair, but it's a nice, this was a good episode. It really was a good episode, and I'm really happy that the Ninjala anime continues to improve, and the art is improving constantly in the Ninjala anime from what I'm looking at. Although granted, they're still trying to stick to the style. You can see the art and the off-model shots aren't as often, which is great. There are a couple off-models here and there in this episode, but not nearly as many as there were in previous episodes. They're really getting good. The story, whoever's writing the story, if they're working with the devs on writing the story, they're doing an absolutely incredible job in telling said story, something that we never got to see. So I'm very pleased with this episode overall. So that's all I've got to say about this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do me a favor and hit that like button as well as hitting that subscribe button. Obviously trying to reach 5,000 subs. You guys know the drill by now. If you guys stuck around to the end of this video, you know that I'm going to ask you to subscribe at least one more time. But yeah, I hope you guys, like I said, enjoyed the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And until then, this is CAJ Man 777 signing off. Stay safe, everybody.